Hello, today's video I'm going to be looking at how to make this card. So I've got together all the bits and pieces I've used to show you. So let's start with the paper pad. I've used papers from this Paper Boutique paper pad. Lots of lovely designs in there, and you get six sheets of each. And I found that foil looks really nice on this paper. You get a really good finish on the foiling, and the fact that you get 6 pages of each means that you can experiment. So that's the paper pad. So this card, it's on a white card blank, and it will basically be a black mat with some pattern paper, a nice strip to highlight, and then some die cuts. So to die cut the frame, so this frame, I've used this die, which is from the Ooh La La collection. It's the framed owl from the Couture Creations Ooh La La collection. So that's been used to die cut the oval frame. The butterfly is also part of the Couture Creations Ooh La La collection. And then I've also used this lovely Happy Birthday hot foil stamp that came with my GoPress, and somewhere here, and the butterfly that came with my GoPress as well. And then in addition to that, I've got some nesting oval dies. You could just use plain ovals, but I've used these that have got the slight decorative edge to them. And then for the foiling that's on this background paper, I've done on the GoPress, I've got some hot foil stamps, and these are Todo hot foil stamps. These leaves are from the laurel wreath foiling plate set, and the flower and the leaves are from the cherry blossom branch hot foil plate set. Okay, and then I've just added a small butterfly. I'm sure we've all got small butterfly dies. So this is the card we're going to be making, and I shall try and show you fairly quickly how to put this together. So the place to start is with the backing paper. Let me just put some of these bits to one side. So when I was thinking about making this card, I did a bit of experimenting. I tried out a few different hot foil stamps to see what kind of worked with the pattern paper, and I settled on the laurel wreath ones. So when I put these down, I want to make sure I know where they're going to be. So let me cut some foil and show you how I do that. There, by the end of my foil. So I am just going to cut a wide enough piece of foil to do one of those. I tried doing several of them at a time with a larger piece of foil, but I got better results doing them one at a time. So I just cut a strip, and then I'm going to decide where I want this. Now where's the original card gone? So if I'm going to do perhaps this one in the corner, so I'm going to lay that how I want to see it on the finished piece, like that. I think I'm going to trim the end of that foil as well. that will go on there. I didn't worry about doing the full length of the tail on them. There we are, like that. And then I use frog masking tape for delicate surfaces, and I find that it really comes away from my paper and the foil really easily. It doesn't leave any residue behind. So that there, and then I'm going to put another small piece further down. And the foil, the tape is mostly on the hot foil stamp and just a tiny little bit onto my paper, because you just in case. So there we are, that's on there. And then I will put that onto my GoPress. Let me just make some space, bear with me a moment. Right, so my GoPress has been warming up, it's nice and hot. I'm just going to take the platform out. Now, one of the things I've found is that when I try and do all over foiling, sometimes I'll do something in one corner and I'll try and put foil on another area of a big piece of backing paper like this, and sometimes it doesn't take, and I've concluded that somehow there's some contamination I've got on this. I'm sure it's not a problem with the machine itself, it's probably picked up something off of something I've put on it. So to avoid that, what I do is I put some bits of copy paper over the areas I'm not using. You have to remember it's all back to front. So that will go down into that corner. Maybe like that. Make sure that's not going to look what's happening. So I can feel where my hot foil stamp is under there. Make sure my paper's not in the way. Same over here. Yeah, that will do nicely. And then I'm going to add three layers of shim, because this is only quite a thin paper I'm foiling onto. It's not like it's a thick card. So that's all gone into the GoPress, and that goes back onto the base to warm up so that the hot foil stamp can heat through, and then it's at the right temperature to heat the foil. So while I'm waiting for that, let me just go over one or two other bits. Now I'm onto my bits I've already prepared here. Yeah, I've cut sort of bits and pieces that I need. Now I've cut some pieces of paper for this, but I haven't die cut them yet, because to get this effect I need to do the foiling before I do the die cutting. So I've got a piece of paper there ready, and I've also got a piece of the white card I've used here, and again that needs to be foiled before it's die cut. That's that. And the other thing is the strip that goes across here. Well, there's a really good trick I've seen to making sure that that matches exactly for length, and that's that you stick one end of it down, lining it up with some double-sided tape underneath, and then you trim the other end off afterwards. So again, that waits till later to be cut to size. Okay, so my GoPress is the green light's come back on, so that's nice and warm now. So I'm going to go and roll that through my die cutting machine. Fortunately, I can't show you that bit because my die cutting machine is a big heavy machine, and it's actually set up in another room. There just isn't space in here to bring it through. So bear with me. Okay, so back from the die cutting machine. So out come my shims. Okay, let's pick this up. Okay, so my hot foil stamp still in place. Now, the good thing about doing it this way is I should be able to peep underneath and see if I've got foil where I'm supposed to, and I haven't. So I'm going to leave that exactly where it was, still stuck down, put it back in, and have another go. Let's put my piece of paper under there. And under there. And I'm actually going to pull this a little bit further down on the hot plate because it's that top edge that it's missed. There we are. Okay, I'm just going to put shims back in, put it back on the base to warm up again, and then roll it again. Okay, I'll roll that through and I'll be back. Okay, let's see if it's done a better job this time. Those are my shims. I can actually see from the back of the paper that I seem to have got better pressure onto it this time. So let me put that to one side. Get those out as well. Put that back on the base to stay warm. And yeah, that's fine this time. So yeah, I'm just literally peeping under there to see if foiling's gone down before I untape everything. So just let that cool down a little bit. The hot foil plate is still a little warm, so take the tape off. I always find it best to peel it from on the hot foil stamp first and then towards the paper. There we are, and yes, you can see that that's taken the foil off. And there we are. So then it's a case of repeating the process with the one that goes the other way, in this case. So I've done that one, I need to do that one, and that one kind of comes up into the corner. So while I was waiting for the for the hot foil plate to warm up just now, I've cut some more bits of foil. Let's just see how those go for placement. I probably want that a bit more around there. There we are. That's it. So I should just trim that. Yeah, at the end. It's always a good idea not to have too much excess foil because it can get pushed down onto the paper just by the pressure from your shims and things, and you can end up with foil where you don't want it. So I'm going to leave that tail hanging off the side, and I use the same bits of tape. I tend to only reuse them a few times because the heat does have some effect on the glue, and then you feel them go very, they get more tacky is the best way to put it. Let's put that one, and I try not to put any tape over an area I've already foiled because again with the heat and everything else it can pull the foil back off. Right, so that's taped down, so that's going to go onto the GoPress again. Let's pull that out, move that one out of the way. So this is going to go onto there. Get my pieces of copy paper, so I'm going to put that under that side, all the way along there, and the other piece can go across the bottom, about there, and then I need my card shims on there, close the lid, back onto the base unit to warm up. Okay, and I shall be back with you in a moment or two. Okay, so that one's been through the GoPress, and I'm just taking the tape off. Yeah, that tape's getting tacky, so I'm going to throw that away now. Get some fresh hot foil stamp. And there's my leaves. Okay, so I've done 2 lots of leaves at that end. Now I've also got this cluster of leaves here, so for that I've used these 3 small leaf hot foil stamps. Put that to one side. So I did those all at the same time. So I'm going to use one of the bits of foil that I've trimmed off and just try and figure out the best place to position that, maybe out there. And the great things about this is you never quite make the same thing twice. So I've got the big one at the top and then the medium sized. And I'm just putting the stems so that they're just touching. Actually, I'm not sure this piece of foil is going to be big enough. Let's just try. No, I don't think it is. I've got a fresh piece. Good to try though. You never quite know with your waste foil what's going to be big enough and what isn't. So I'm going to cut that slightly wider than I have been before. And then I'm going to cut this into about 3 pieces. Right, so there we go, piece of foil. So my big leaf, my medium leaf, and my small leaf. There. And then I need a piece of tape to hold that into place. So I'm going to carefully with one hand hold those still and just put a piece of foil over the stems and over the foil. It just comes onto the card so that the foil and the leaves are held in place. And then a very small piece of foil. Really only does need a very small piece, small piece of tape. Just for that top leaf, and I'm just going to take another narrow piece of tape, kind of put it across from the bottom up there, so it's only just touching the card but it's keeping those leaves in place. So we'll put that on the hot plate. So just because it's taped, I can just turn it upside down and put it down. This is actually at the bottom. No, let's turn it round then. Let's do it at the top. That's it. So it's just easier to. That's moved. Okay, I'm going to need another piece of tape there. That wasn't quite stuck down. One of my leaves has escaped. Right, let me just tape that with that spare piece of tape there. I'm just going to tape that to the big one. There we are. Right. Yeah, I think we're safe. Okay, so get the base unit. Lay it on. Piece of paper down this side. Make sure I don't pick up any residue of anything that might have got onto my grey hot plate. So you don't have to go right up to the hot foil stamp because the paper is raised up by it. So it's only once you get a little way away that it can actually be pressed down. Oh, and my shims. Close the lid, back onto the base plate. Okay, so that I shall wait until the green light comes on. While I'm waiting, let me prepare for foiling the sentiment. If we can get that all set up ready while we're waiting. So to do that, I'm going to take a piece of card quite a lot larger than I need, and I'm going to put a piece of foil that's generous in size on it, because not only for the sentiment but for the die. So let's have a measure. Yeah, about that much. Put a nip in there. Cut the foil. Okay, so my green light has come back on for that. So I'm just going to pause a minute and go and roll that. Okay, so I've rolled this. Take my shims out. Take that off the plate. Take those off as well. Put that back to warm. I'm not going to make you watch me do all of it. So there's my leaves. So they are only small hot foil stamps, so there shouldn't be any problems with them getting hot enough. Obviously, if you're using bigger hot foil stamps, you need to allow longer for them to heat through. But these are about as small as they come. Okay. On the plus side, they cool down quickly as well. There we are. Carefully pull that away. And there we are, my leaves. Do make sure you retrieve all your hot foil stamps from any tape and waste foil. Right, so I shall do the rest of that in a moment, but back to our sentiment. So I've got my foil, and I'm going to take my foil to the card away from where any hot foil stamps will be. So just over the edge there, and again on the other side. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to actually use this foil twice. Okay, so I'm going to use the same piece of foil for foiling with the hot foil stamp and for creating the forward edge using the die. So you can tape this down, or you can just take a chance on getting it roughly in the middle. I like to tape things down because I like to know that that's going to end up there, and then I am going to be able to fit that around it without being off the edge of my foil. So I'm going to take that bit of tape, break it in half, and just put one bit at the top. And I'm just taping to the foil rather than to the card, because I've got my foil taped at the edges. Okay, that won't go anywhere. So that goes on to the hot plate. Okay, I don't need these for this bit because I've got foil covering anything else I'm going to use on that piece of card. Put my shims in, close the lid, put it back on the base to heat up, and while I'm waiting for that to heat up, I'm going to put the next one of these in place, but I'm not going to make you watch because I'm just repeating the same but at the other end. Okay, so I've been and rolled the GoPress through my die cutting machine, Okay, so now I need to lift off the hot foil stamp for the happy birthday, but I'm not going to move the foil. So peel the tape. Use my pick and lift because this is still a little bit warm. There we are. Put that down there to cool. So you can see there, you can see where the happy birthday is foiled. Now it's really tempting to peel the foil up and look, but it really is best not to, because once you peel it up it's difficult to be sure that it's gone back down in the same place. Okay, you might just manage a peep under the edge. Okay. So then I'm going to take my die. Now the other thing I need for this technique, I'm going to be foiling using the back of the die. So I need to set up my GoPress in a slightly different way for that. Let me bring the grey platform over. So to do this, let me get this. I use a very thin metal shim, the sort of thing that you use to help with cutting intricate dies on a die cutting machine. It really is very, very thin. It's 0.3mm, this one. I got it from Crafts too, but you can get other similar ones. And because this is very, very thin, I actually put some card underneath it. So I've got a piece of 300 GSM card here and another piece, because I'm sure it's my die cutting machine that's the issue, but I have a problem with getting even pressure across the width. So I put a thin metal shim on there, okay, and that needs to warm up. So while that is warming up, we sort out taping down and lining up the die. So the die I've got here, this is a tattered lace die. Hopefully you can see it's, let the camera focus, its cutting edge is nicely in the middle of the supporting metal. Okay, so I'm going to use it with the cutting edge pointing upwards. Yes, upwards, so it's the flat back of it that I'm putting down onto my foil. Okay, just looking by eye and getting that into the middle, and so that your words are going to be straight. There we are. Okay, and then I'm going to reuse some tape, and again I'm taping the die to the foil. Okay, I need to put it in a couple of places because this doesn't even get turned upside down. Okay, so that's saying it's hot. I usually leave it a bit longer to warm up, to be honest. So while we're waiting, we can look at the other one of these that we need to do, which, because we do this backing layer for the butterfly in a very similar way. So for that, I've got a piece of this paper. I need to cut some foil. Just make sure that that's big enough. Yep. So I'm going to go this way across it. Okay, so my green light has gone off. It's gone to flashing red and it's come back green. Okay, so now I'm going to put this on top of that metal plate with the cutting edge of the die upwards. Now you might want to put some scrap card in to protect your lid from getting scratched, but if you're going to be using the cut foil and emboss foiling plates, it'll get scratched anyway. but it's up to you. I do mine without, but you can put a piece of card in to help protect your lid. So that needs to warm up, and you need to give it some time, because you're not heating, although the dye will heat up, the important thing is that the card heats up, because that's transferring the heat through. Okay, so I'm going to put this in place. Again, I'm going to take down the foil. Take down the foil, and then I find it better if I do the stage with a hot foil stamp first. So we think about where this is going to be. So that's going to be there, and I did this kind of slightly off the edge, so that side of the butterfly, the foiling isn't there. So that wasn't wonky, that was a design feature. So if I imagine I want to do that, yeah, if I do that about there, then I'll have room for my die as well. So let's line that up, put that down there. Again, it doesn't need to be exact, just trying to, yeah, that'll do for that, and tape it down. Quite a heavy hot foil stamp this, so I'm going to put an extra piece of tape at the bottom there. Okay, and actually I'm going to put some more tape on this foil at the end, because it's only a tiny little piece of tape. Okay, so that's ready to go. So I'm going to go and run some things through the die cutting machine to put pressure on them, and then come back and show you what I've been doing. Okay, so this is back from going through the die cutting machine. So let's see how this turned out. Let's move my foil out of the way. There. Okay, now I'm going to, from my pick and lift, and I'm going to take this off. And while we're looking at this, the next bit could be getting ready. Got that over there, it's quite warm. Take the shims off, and what have I done with it? This one, the butterfly. So that's a hot foil stamp, so we don't need the metal plate, so that just goes on. And my shims. And my shims. Still using the same number of shims. Put that in. It's on the base to warm up. Okay, so let's see what's happened here. So, one of the things that quite often happens is the die cuts through the tape. So don't worry about that, it just comes away. And in fact, yep. There we are. Take the die out of the way, and you should be able to see the impression in the foil from the pressure. Okay, and I usually try and have a peek before I lift everything out the way, just in case it's going to need some more heat and some more rolling. You can just see under there that edge. So now I can take the tape off. There are a lot of variables with foiling. It can depend on the card you're using, the hot foil stamp you're using, humidity, because if your card's absorbed sort of moisture from the air, that makes it harder to foil onto it. And there we are. But today it's a nice dry day. Okay, so there's that, and then that will just need to be cut out. And to do that, you take exactly the same die and you turn it cutting side over, and you line it up so that you can't see your foiling. Okay, and it can be useful if you've got a spare one, have a magnetic sheet underneath, because it will stop your die moving around too easily while you're trying to tape it down. So yeah, I tape it down just at the edge. So I'm taping onto the waste card, the card that will be cut away when I pass it through the die cutting machine. And then quite often having taped it down, I then pick it up and have a look at it from different angles to make sure, because sometimes when you turn it around you find you've got foil sticking out from underneath that you hadn't seen when you were looking the other way. But that's okay. So in a minute I shall die cut that. That is still warming up. Okay, so maybe I'll go and die cut that first. And the green light's just come on. Bear with me. Right, so back from the die cutting machine again. So I've rolled this through. So again, I'm going to take my hot foil stamp off, but I'm not going to move my foil. Okay. So there, because I don't move the foil, I can see exactly where that butterfly's been foiled. And then I can take just the larger oval from the set and position that where I want it on there and tape that down. I need to put my metal plate back onto my platform, so let me do that. So again, my metal shim is a very, very thin metal shim, 0.3 millimeters. So it's the sort of thing you get for using the die cutting machine, maybe you're cutting fabric or for cutting very intricate dies. So that goes on top of those paper shims, and I'm going to put that back in to warm up while I'm putting my die in place. Okay, so the die just gets taped to the foil. It's not quite so critical as with the sentiment that it stays straight. I'm just going to redo that one because that's not quite sitting. It seems to be sort of pulling up, so I'm just going to put that way round so it just goes down nice and flat. So I'm going to lose the edge of the butterfly eventually, but that's what I want. That's what I've done on here. It just kind of, because the gold here is just to sort of shine underneath the die cut. So I'll put that onto the metal plate and leave it to warm up for a minute. Okay, so also while I was waiting for things to warm up, I've die cut this. So the die's just gone through as normal. So then when you pop it out, you've cut in the middle of that foil edging that you created. So you've got a really neat and very professional looking foil edge all around there. Okay, so we'll leave that to one side until we put the card together. Okay, don't forget to retrieve your die. Oh, the other thing is, for a different card, and if you make sure you line it up straight, you've also got a lovely foiled aperture. Okay, so you could actually get larger die and cut that out, or just make sure you've got that lined up in the middle of the card and use that as an aperture. More ideas. I've always got more ideas than time. So this is now hot enough. I'll go and roll that. Okay, so back from the die cutting machine again, And I did actually, because I've got a nice wide die cutting machine and this is quite a big die, I actually twisted it round, rolled it that way and then twisted it round and rolled it the other way, because that way I know I've had good pressure on these sides and across the ends. So let's see what that's done. And what am I going to want to foil next? So let me take this plate off of here. And the next bit, while I'm doing this, will be the next bit of that. Now I'm never normally this organised. So let's see what's happened with this. That's warming up, so that's fine. Let's take the die off rather than move the foil. Let's take the die off first, because then if it hasn't foiled, then you can always put it back down again, because you'll be able to see where it needs to go. So I can see the impression from the back of that die nicely all the way around my butterfly. So I shall remove the tape holding the foil. There we are. That's the end. So there we are, and then again, using the bigger die this time, I put that over, line it up with my foiling, tape it down and die cut it. Okay, so I'll do that and then show you how it looks. Okay, so I'm back from the die cutting machine, so I've die cut this. Take the tape off. In fact, it'll just pop out the back. There we are, but don't forget to retrieve your die. Okay, so that's finished with now. So this is obviously on paper, so if I try and use that as a top on its own, that's just going to wobble about. So, and it kind of needs a frame to sit on. So I've already die cut one of the large butterflies, and I've already die cut the frame. Remember, this was the frame down die set, and this is the Ooh La La framed butterfly die set. So I'm going to use some double-sided tape to put that onto there. So double-sided tape. Now I like to use double-sided tape because it lets me take time to line things up. So I'm just going to cut a short piece. I'm going to trim the corners because this is going to go at the edge. Okay, and just stick that along, just in from the edge there. And another piece the same length for the other side. Oh, and while we're doing things, I've also got the rest of the foiling on the backing sheet. I've been swapping over the hot foil stamps to finish that off in between things, so that should be finished in a moment or two as well. Okay, so 2 pieces of double-sided tape. So the side ones, I'm just going to poke them out to the sides a little bit. Like that, and the middle one, peel from the same end. Okay, take it down a bit lower so it can stick out the side. Okay, and then that means at this end, where I haven't peeled it, I can actually hold it down and line it up straight. I can use the little points. Let me just pop that a bit more on that side so that will sit flat. So this die set does have very definite points where things would line up, and it would look odd if they didn't. And there we are, the end points in line with that bit. I can push it out that end, that's held in place. Then put the middle one out, then one side, then the other side, move it down, and there we are. Okay, so that's that done. I'm just going to pause a second while I go and run this through. Okay, so I have just been and run the backing paper through the die cutting machine for the last time, for its last bit of foiling, which is just a little flower, just to fill in some space. So let's just take this one off, and then the card actually comes together. Okay, so there we have our very own foiled backing paper. I'm sure if we were actually buying foiled backing paper like this, it would be very expensive. I love the idea of being able to create my own design on it to complement the design that's already there. And it's kind of the same at either end, but I've not measured, I've just done it by eye, so it's similar at either end. Okay, so I've got my backing paper. Now I can actually start bringing the card together. So somewhere buried under here there is a strip that I cut. There it is. Right, so a strip to go across somewhere about there. So the great thing about having a design of a strip like this in is that if a bit of foiling has gone wrong, that's where you put your strip or your butterfly or something like that. So I need a piece of my thin double-sided tape, and I need it roughly the length of this piece of paper. So I'm just going to run up against the other, cut it a bit shorter. There we are, because nobody ever tests the edges of stuff to see if they're really stuck down. So I'm going to put this along here, okay, like that, and I'm going to start peeling it from the far end, okay, and I'm going to leave that sticking out at the top, okay, so it's not in my way. And then I just want to line this up. Now if you're really bothered by things being straight, you can grab a ruler or another straight edge, maybe another piece of paper. Yeah, I've got another, it's actually the piece that cut off the side of there, and I can line that up. Yeah, I can kind of line that up with the edge and hold it against it for a larger area, and butt the top one up against the other. Now I could leave it sticking out a bit both ends because I didn't take my tape right to the end. There we go, and stick it down so it's stuck at that end now, so that end can't move. And just while I'm holding it still, I'm just going to take that end of my backing from my double-sided tape, and I'm just going to gently, very gently, have I done the wrong end? I've done the wrong end. Oh, that was clever of me. Let's see if I can peel that up without having a complete disaster. There we are. Right, so sticking it down the right way up this time. just to show you what you can get away with when you're crafting. Right, so let me just line that up, or you can just do it by eye, doesn't matter. So I just put this roughly where I want it. Now let me just grab my sentiment, figure out where I want this on my card actually, so I can gauge that and I can put that in place as well. I think, yes, I'd like that. That about there, maybe that a little bit lower if that's going to be in the middle there. A little bit higher, yeah, about there. So I'll put that across there, just move that out of the way. So this end's not sticky, so it doesn't matter that I'm holding it down, I can move it. Okay, get it straight. That's it, straight across there, and then grab the end, take it out, and because it's stuck there, you literally just press it down. So that's in place. And then turn it over to the other side, and any bits that are sticking out, it's flush that end. It's good, that means it's straight. And then it's actually better with a big pair of scissors. Where the other end is, just trim it off, flush there. And then it's a perfect fit. So there we are, that's that. So then I need to put some tape on the back of here, and I can mat and layer that. Let me just do that quickly. I'll pause so you don't have to have the agony of watching me cut tape. Okay, so I put that down onto the backing black card. I'm just going to put this onto my card blank. I just use A4 card and score it to create an A5 card blank using 300 GSM card. So I put double-sided tape on the back, flip the ends out, and then I can line this up. Want it, make sure it's straight, stick the corners, pull the tape out. Blank cardstock when it's blank. Okay, and then this needs some foam pads under it, so I've got a reel of foam tape here for that. I'm just going to put some fairly large pieces on. They're usually a bit more economical, but for the speed, since we're demonstrating. You should see the mess on my craft table. It was really tidy when I started this video. There are bits everywhere now. Right, so make sure you get it the right way up because it's got a butterfly on it and they look funny upside down. So that goes out there. Okay, that's there. I'm going to do the same with this, put some foam on the back. Okay, maybe I'll make that a bit smaller. Okay, for 3 bits. So, oops. You can use sticky buds, you know, pre-cut foam pads, whatever you've got for this. So line this up so the points of my oval are in the middle of my band. Just there. And then I've got some small butterflies buried laid on here, some on my table, stick down, and I've got my big butterfly. Now just bear with me while I grab some glue. Now one of the things I have found is that PVA glue doesn't always stick things very well to foiled surfaces, and this big butterfly is going right down on the foiling. So I've got some acrylic structure paste. It's the sort of stuff you mix glitters with for stenciling, or you can use a craft glue that's got some acrylic in it. Some of the, you know, the deluxe glues tend to be that kind of glue. They've got acrylic in them as well as PVA. So I'm just going to offset that slightly, stick that down, and then just have a tiny bit of glue for my small butterflies. So where my leaves come together, it won't matter if the stems aren't quite touching or have overlapped, aren't quite perfect, because there's going to be a butterfly on top. So one butterfly on the end of those leaves, and the other butterfly is just going to come down and sit on the end of my band of the darker paper. There we are. So let's go there. Oops. Stick. I use my scissors to just press that down. Same for that one. Wings up. And there it is. One finished card. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed watching. I will put details in the blog post of what I've done and what I've used. But there we are, an assortment of small hot foil stamps to create an entire background, as well as the main feature on the card. Thank you for watching.